Don't compare yourself with other people, compare yourself with who you were yesterday. It's in responsibility that most people find the meaning that sustains them through life. It's not in happiness. It's not in impulsive pleasure. Adopt responsibility for your own well-being, try to put your family together, try to serve your community, try to seek for eternal truth. That's the sort of thing that can ground you in your life, enough so that you can withstand the difficulty of life. Accept the terrible responsibility of life with eyes wide open. The truth is something that burns. It burns off dead wood. And people don't like having the dead wood burnt off, often because they're 95% dead wood. I don't tell people, you're okay the way that you are. That's not the right story. The right story is, you're way less than you could be. It is more difficult to rule yourself than to rule a city. No one gets away with anything, ever, so take responsibility for your own life. Free speech is not just another value. It's the foundation of Western civilization. It's very hard to find your own words, and you don't actually exist until you have your own words. Power is competence. If you don't stand your ground, then all that happens is people push you backwards. To me, ideology is corrupt, it's a parasite on religious structures. To be an ideologue is to have all of the terrible things that are associated with religious certainty and none of the utility. If you're an ideologue, you believe everything that you think. If you're religious, there's a mystery left there. If you're talking to a man who wouldn't fight with you under any circumstances whatsoever, then you're talking to someone for whom you have absolutely no respect. Women deeply want men who are competent and powerful. And I don't mean power in that they can exert tyrannical control over others. That's not power. That's just corruption. Life is very difficult. One of the most ancient of religious ideas that emerges everywhere, I would say, is that life is essentially suffering. When you start to realize how much of what you've constructed of yourself is based on deception and lies, that is a horrifying realization. As pessimistic as I am about the nature of human beings and our capacity for atrocity and malevolence and betrayal and laziness and inertia, and all those things, I think we can transcend all that and set things straight. Become aware of your own insufficiency. Men and women aren't the same. And they won't be the same. That doesn't mean that they can't be treated fairly. You can't have a value structure without a hierarchy. They're the same thing because a value structure means one thing takes precedence over another. If you're not going to be rewarded for your virtues, and instead you're going to be punished for them, then what's your motivation to continue? I happen to be a big fan of Western civilization, I think it beats the hell out of tyranny and starvation. It's a small percentage of people who do the 80-hour-a-week high-powered career thing, and they're almost all men. Why? Well, men are driven by socioeconomic status more than women. I've studied authoritarianism for a very long time, for 40 years, and they're started by people's attempts to control the ideological and linguistic territory. I have a hard time figuring out what kind of box to put me in, too, because I don't know exactly what's going on around me or why. But I need to stay outside of boxes, because then I can look at what's inside of them without being part of them. We have to rediscover the eternal values and then live them out. Assuming if there's such a thing as reality, if you have a false relationship with it, how can you do anything but fail? Once someone has spent enough time cultivating bad habits and biding their time, they are much diminished. Much of what they could have been has dissipated. The connection between psychology, mythology, and literature is as important as the connection between psychology and biology and the hard sciences. You have to listen very carefully and tell the truth if you are going to get a paranoid person to open up to you. You should do what other people do, unless you have a very good reason not to. It's very difficult to regulate yourself, and if you learn to do that, well, it starts to spill over. I'm interested in what motivates individuals to participate in atrocious acts to support their ideological identification. All things considered, there's nobody better for children than parents. Part of the reason there's an injunction to the truth, for example, is that if you're in a circumstance of extreme uncertainty, your best weapon, let's say, or your best tool or your best defense is the truth, because it keeps things simpler. The right-wingers don't want to admit that for some people, there are no jobs. They think that conscientiousness in and of itself will do the trick. There's no doubt that inequality destabilizes societies. I think the social science evidence on that front is crystal clear. I do believe that there are places where the mythological and the literal touch. My publication record puts me in the top 0.5% of psychologists. I'm always surprised when people respond positively to what I am saying, given its seriousness and strange nature.